some people never raise their voice. They still make you doubt your own mind. The most dangerous signals are often the quiet ones. That is why charm can be harder to read than anger. You usually feel the pattern before you understand it. Something feels off, but nothing looks obvious enough to challenge. That confusion is not random. It is often the cover that influence hides behind. And once you can name the pattern, it starts losing power. Today, you are not learning how to control people. You are learning how to stop being read, rushed, and quietly steered. The first rule is simple. Watch for consistency, not intensity. People who want leverage over you often manage impressions before they ever reveal intentions. They study reactions, test boundaries, and notice what makes you soften, defend, explain, or freeze. That does not make them all dangerous, but it does mean surface behavior is never the whole story. Here is what to look at instead. Start with timing. Healthy communication usually matches the moment, while manipulative communication often appears exactly when your guard is lowest. It comes when you are rushed, flattered, tired, guilty, lonely, or eager to prove yourself. Watch for this. If someone's requests always arrive when you are emotionally exposed, the timing is part of the message. That early clue matters because pressure rarely begins with force. It begins with convenience that only benefits them. The next signal is mismatch. Their words may sound warm, but their pattern leaves you tense, apologetic, or strangely responsible for their moods. When language and impact keep disagreeing, trust the impact enough to investigate further. A person can say, "no pressure," while creating exactly that. They can call you important, then punish you for having limits. That split between message and effect tells you more than polished wording ever will. Here's a quick defense. Do not ask only, "what did they say?" Ask, "what happens to me after every interaction with them?" That question exposes influence faster than analyzing every sentence for hidden meaning. Because patterns live in consequences, not in performance. There is one tell many people miss. The person who reads you too quickly often wants to guide you just as quickly. They notice what matters to you, then mirror it back with suspicious speed. Your humor becomes their humor. Your values become their values. Your frustrations become their talking points. At first, this feels like rare compatibility. Sometimes it is. But when the mirroring is strategic, it moves too fast and asks for trust before truth has had time to appear. This is where many people get pulled in at work, in dating, and even in close friendships. Someone seems to understand you perfectly within days, then starts cashing in on that closeness. They ask for special access, quick loyalty, emotional labor, or private information before the bond has been earned. So here is how you slow the pattern down. When someone feels unusually easy to connect with, do not speed up to match the feeling. Keep your pace. Real alignment survives time. Manufactured alignment needs urgency. That difference alone can protect you from a long list of bad decisions. Now look at how they handle boundaries. Anyone can seem calm when things go their way. Character becomes visible the moment you say no, ask for clarity, or stop over-explaining yourself. A respectful person may feel disappointed, but they still respect the line. A manipulative person treats your boundary like a puzzle to solve or a threat to neutralize. They joke past it, guilt past it, charm past it, or act wounded until you reopen the door. That is not connection. That is resistance to your autonomy. Here is what is really happening. If your limit causes them to reveal contempt, pressure, or sudden coldness, the boundary did not create the problem. It revealed it. A quick everyday example makes this clearer. You say you cannot answer work messages late at night, and they respond with, "Wow, I thought you cared." The sentence sounds small, but the move is bigger than it looks. They are trying to make your self-respect feel like selfishness, so you will trade limits for approval. That is one of the oldest influence tricks in the book, and the defense is quieter than most people expect. Do not argue your right to have a boundary. Repeat it once. Then watch whether they adapt or escalate. Their response gives you more information than any apology they offer later. By this point, you may notice a pattern. Reading people well is less about decoding microexpressions and more about tracking repeated pressure around your emotions, time, and identity. That is good news, because you do not need superpowers. You need observation without denial. Now pay attention to selective confusion. Some people become suddenly unclear only when clarity would make them accountable. They misunderstand your simple request, forget direct conversations, or act baffled by standards they understood perfectly yesterday. This tactic keeps you busy explaining while they avoid the actual issue. If you've caught yourself doing this, you're not alone. Tell me below. That reflection matters because most people have used at least a mild version of confusion under stress. The difference is whether it becomes a repeated strategy. When it does, stop rewarding it with endless clarification. Shorten your language. State the point once. Put important things in writing when needed. And refuse the trap of explaining yourself into exhaustion. The more grounded you become, the less useful confusion becomes to anyone around you. Another signal is borrowed urgency. They create a clock that belongs to them, then make it feel like it belongs to reality. You need to answer now. You need to decide tonight. You need to forgive before you have processed what happened. Urgency is powerful because it shrinks your inner space. And when inner space shrinks, discernment shrinks with it. So here's how you take your power back. When the pressure rises, slow your tempo on purpose. A simple line like, "I will think about it and get back to you," can break the spell. Anyone who respects you can tolerate that sentence. Anyone who cannot was usually relying on momentum more than honesty. There's also the pattern of emotional outsourcing. That is when someone quietly makes you responsible for managing feelings they should be managing themselves. You become the stabilizer, interpreter, rescuer, translator, and emotional shock absorber for the relationship. At first, you may call this compassion. Later, you realize compassion has turned into unpaid maintenance of someone else's chaos. Notice how often they recover only after you soothe, reassure, absorb blame, or abandon your own needs. That recurring transfer tells you the bond may be feeding on your regulation. The defense is not cruelty. It is proportion. Care without carrying. Support without surrender. You can be kind without becoming the emergency system for every storm they refuse to learn from. Here comes a sharper reframe. Many people do not lose power because others are stronger. They lose power because they keep mistaking access for intimacy and intensity for truth. That confusion makes ordinary pressure feel personal, faded, even meaningful. But not every strong feeling is a signal to trust more deeply. Sometimes it is a signal to slow down and verify. This becomes especially important around praise. Flattery is not always false, but strategic praise has a certain smell. It arrives before evidence. It feels oversized for the actual closeness. And it often comes attached to a request, a favor, a secret, or a shortcut past your usual standards. The goal is not to make you feel good. The goal is to make you easier to move. When you notice that, receive compliments with grace, but do not let them purchase your judgment. The same rule applies to shared enemies. Someone who bonds with you mainly through mutual outrage may be building fast loyalty without real substance underneath it. They feed the sense that you both see the truth, while everyone else is blind, petty, or dangerous. That emotional alliance can feel powerful. It can also make you easier to recruit into someone else's perspective before you have checked reality yourself. Read this carefully. If a relationship speeds up through flattery, urgency, and private us against them energy, your caution should rise, not fall. Those three together can create a tunnel where outside perspective disappears. And tunnel vision is where manipulation gets room to grow. Now let's talk about silence. Not peaceful silence. Punishing silence. The kind that appears right after you disappoint them, question them, or refuse to play your assigned role. This is not always about needing space. Sometimes it is a control move designed to make reconnection feel like a reward you must earn. You feel the temperature drop. you start scanning for what you did wrong. And before long, you are the one repairing a rupture you did not create. Here is the defense. Do not chase clarity from someone who is using withdrawal as leverage. Offer one clean invitation to talk when both of you are ready. Then step back. If they wanted resolution, they now have a door. If they wanted power, your panic would have been the payment. There's one more layer that turns ordinary reading into wise reading. Stop focusing only on whether someone is good or bad. Ask a better question. What pattern do they create around me over time? Do I become clearer, calmer, and more myself? Or do I become more confused, reactive, self-doubting, and easy to steer? That question cuts through charm faster than image ever will. Because the body keeps score of pressure long before the mind forms a neat explanation. So listen when your system keeps tightening around one person. Not every discomfort is danger. But repeated contraction is information. The aware person does not worship first impressions. They study emotional after effects. They notice whether accountability is welcomed or dodged. They watch what happens when approval is no longer easy to get from them. That is when masks strain. That is when influence reveals its mechanics. And that is when your power returns to you. Because once you stop performing confusion for people who benefit from it, their favorite tools begin to fail. You do not need to expose everyone. You do not need a dramatic confrontation every time. Often, your strongest move is simply changing your availability, your pace, and your willingness to explain the obvious. The person trying to steer you usually depends on three things: your rush, your guilt, and your hope that clarity will arrive if you just try harder. Break those three, and the spell weakens. Slow down. Name the pattern. Hold the boundary. Verify before trusting intensity. And remember that being hard to manipulate does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming congruent. Kind, but not easily cornered. Open, but not unguarded. Empathic, but not endlessly available for someone else's strategy. That is how you read people like an open book without turning your heart into stone. You stop hunting for perfect tells. You start tracking repeated pressure. You stop overvaluing words. You start valuing patterns. And once you do that, a lot of hidden behavior stops looking mysterious at all. It starts looking obvious. Quietly obvious. If this sharpened your awareness, stay close. There's more to uncover, and the next video goes even deeper into the signals most people dismiss too early. Subscribe if you want a calmer eye, stronger boundaries, and language for the patterns others hope you never name. Until then, keep your pace, trust what repeats, and protect the part of you that refuses to be quietly rewritten.